Welcome to Uncensored Conservatism, episode 135. Today we're going to continue to look at Project 2025 and what's exactly in it, starting chapter 6, part 1. So this is going to be in two parts, obviously. So chapter 6 of Project 2025 deals with the State Department and was written by Kieran Skinner, who previously served in the State and Defense Departments. The purpose of the State Department is to advance the President's foreign policy, protect Americans abroad, and advance the issues of the United States. It is the home of the diplomatic corps that must be responsive to the President's policies. Noting that there are State Department employees with a wide range of needed skills like linguistics, management of personnel, and so forth, they must nevertheless also be committed to the President's foreign policy agenda. In other words, shut up, do your job, or find another one. Of course, an incoming administration could and should demand the resignation of all ambassadors and appoint their own, which is usually what happens. She suggests that people with a close relationship to the president be appointed to the ambassadorships of Japan, Australia, the United Kingdom, NATO, and the United Nations. Project 2025 suggests assessing all negotiations and spending from day one. There should be a freeze on the implementation of all unratified treaties, foreign assistance, and agreements to make sure they align with the President's priorities. Unlike the Biden administration, it suggests that the State Department functions not be handed off to Homeland Security. The policy of implementing and funding unratified treaties needs to stop because that's the job of Congress. I mean, I'm serious, it's in this thing, the Constitution. Instead, things called agreements and commitments, which are really these things, treaties, should be approved by the Senate first. As for pending treaties, if they're more than 20 years old and unratified, just forget about them. They're not going to be ratified. Nevertheless, things have changed, and the biggest change is a recognition that our number one adversary is Communist China. The State Department needs to stop thinking of immigration as a welfare program and more in terms of national security. One way to address this is through mandatory reciprocity in the issuance of visas. We allow people into this country from adversarial countries, but not vice versa, and this needs to end. As for the anticipated deportations coming, denying visas to countries that refuse to accept the deportees will place pressure on them, and that sanction is to remain in place based upon action, not promises from these countries. And I'm looking at you, Mexico, since you let them traverse through your country. We also have a refugee crisis that needs to be curtailed until the illegal immigration problem is brought under control. How many terrorists have we allowed into this country? It suggests a total review of the visas that affect foreign students, exchange visitor visas, and the diversity visa program. Now, Skinner doesn't hit every foreign policy concern, but she starts here in China. This is a country of over 1 billion people with the resources, the military, and the patience to achieve their goals. Now, take the example of the origins of COVID-19. We were told it did not escape from a lab. These were conspiracy theories, we were told. They weren't theories, it was a conspiracy. And you have companies like Disney and BlackRock that directly benefit from China, or so-called leaders who normalize or laud Chinese behavior. Others, like John Kerry, take the compete here and cooperate there line of thought in the case of climate change. So it isn't the Marxism of China that's the problem, it's the culture. Aggressive behavior by China can only be curtailed from without. You're not going to change their culture. With Iran, they are probably at their weakest point since this guy took over in 1979. It's not only people in Iran who suffer, but also their neighbors. The Iran nuclear accords gave Iran a vital financial lifeline after the 2009 Iranian protests there, where this guy sat back and did nothing. But did Obama's actions moderate Iran? I think the answer is in places like Gaza and Lebanon, Syria. In Venezuela, once a paragon of Latin American democracy, it is now ruled by communist dictators who clamp down on dissidents, and they've shattered their economy. And we pay the price. Of course, there is the war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, on one side of the conservative spectrum, you have people who view Russia as an existential threat to world order and nothing short of total victory. And deposing this guy is the only answer, even if it takes money, weapons, or soldiers. On the other side, there are those who say we have no interest in Ukraine. It is not a NATO ally. They are a corrupt country, and it's Europe's problem, so deal with it. But there is a third way that asks, how much money is enough, and how do we pay for it? And what are our interests in Ukraine? And how does this affect how we deal with the biggest threat on the international stage? In any case, we must realize that Putin's adventurism has weakened his military and strengthened NATO along the way. Project 2025 recognizes that South Korea and Japan are vital and important Asian allies, and our bonds must be stronger to thwart the Chinese threat. A vociferous defense against North Korean nuclear blackmail is vitally important also. Mexico's a freaking joke right now. They've surrendered their sovereignty to drug cartels. The precursors to make fentanyl come from China. They're manufactured in Mexico. They're smuggled into the United States. This is a priority, stopping that relationship between the Chinese and the Mexican cartels. Now, through energy and industry, we can transform the Western Hemisphere with willing partners. This is achieved by shifting global industry and manufacturing from China to Latin America. Also, the free flow of energy between the United States, Mexico, and Canada must be a priority to fuel this manufacturing renaissance. We have to thwart Chinese, Russian, and Iranian influence in this hemisphere, a new Monroe Doctrine, if you will. In the Middle East, the top priority is preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Since there's only one country over there with the balls to actually do anything other than talk, we must support Israel in their battles with Iranian proxies. We need to build on the Abraham Accords and get Saudi Arabia to sign on to them. They're probably the country most threatened by Iran. Project 2025 calls for totally defunding the Palestinian Authority, an action that I think should have happened a long time ago. And Turkey must not look to China or Russia. They are, after all, a NATO ally, but they don't always act it. Finally, it suggests a pact between the United States, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and other Gulf states, and possibly India, to ensure safe traffic in the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea, while working with France in North Africa to deter Islamic terrorism and Russian influence. Now, I'm going to pick up part 2 of Chapter 6 on Saturday. So that's it for today. Have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.